Welcome to Awards Bait, the official Galaxy of Film award show podcast, where we ask ourselves, what's getting nominated this year? Joining me every other Tuesday is a roster of guest stars to help me answer that very question. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Awards Baits. We are here today with, I believe, her first time on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Naima, welcome to Galaxy of Film.
Hi.
You've worked on some of the films with Max, which some are out, some are not out. And then one of them we're premiering next month at the event. So it'll be super exciting to see that for the first time. But how are you doing? How's everything?
I am great. I'm super excited to be here on this lovely Friday morning and to talk about my favorite thing ever, film.
I'm
super excited.
It's going to be a good time. So we've got a bit of a different structure. I know normally, like with this show, we've been doing predictions, we've been doing nomination breakdowns, but today I wanted to shine a spotlight on the movies that are ultimately not really going to go all the way. And this kind of was inspired by the whole catastrophe last year with Don't Worry Darling, where that ultimately, you see the trailers, you're like, oh, this looks like an awards contender. And then, unfortunately, due to behind-the-scenes drama, due to just not great reviews, it really doesn't go all the way. Despite it being a very fun train wreck that we watched, these movies are... There's no Don't Worry Darling this year, I don't think, but ultimately, I do have a list here. We're going to call this the In Memoriam, which is sort of the movies that seemed like they were going to the Oscars, and unfortunately, it's not looking great for them. As the nominations come out, it's looking less and less likely that these are going to make it there. So without further ado, we can just get right into it here. First up, I have Beau is Afraid from Ari Aster. Now, this is one that it came out early, so you can argue, it came out too early, so it didn't get to capture that wave. But, I don't know, this was a weird one for me, because I really liked Hereditary, I really liked Midsommar, but this one, ultimately, I was kind of left cold by, because it's a long, weird movie, and right after leaving, I was like, I don't think anybody's going to like this, but ultimately it did wind up being kind of more divisive, and it has its fans. But at the end of the day, I was kind of left like, yeah, no, this is one that's going to be too weird for the Academy. Did you get a chance to see Beau is Afraid? And if so, do you agree? Do you think that this should be at the Oscars? What do you think?
So I'm a big Ari Aster fan. When he first came out with Hereditary, I kind of had this prediction that his career was going to skyrocket since the horror genre was kind of declining a bit. And being a horror enthusiast, like I'm horror queen in North Carolina, no one has been able to take me for my title. And when Hereditary first came out, I watched it in the theaters. I was in shock. I mean, this is horror. This is what we needed. So when he came out with his sister piece or partner piece with Midsommar, which is a whole topic in and of itself, I was just as mesmerized because of just the night and day and the kind of tone and mood implications that he was doing throughout both movies. So it made sense. And they were both very successful, though the horror genre, I know, majority of the time does not make it to the Oscars. I think that is something that's kind of proven. So when Beau is Afraid, I kind of didn't have this reaction of, oh, it's going to make it there, because none of his other pieces, which were 20 times better in my opinion, even had a chance to get there. But I'm not going to discredit the work that he does put in, and I don't want to spoil anything because I do want people to still go and be able to watch it if they'd like. But I'm not going to discredit his work because he does come out with a little bit more of this absurdist approach than he usually does, which I kind of liked. I think he took a step, he took a risk. Do I think it was his best work? No. Did he get a big and higher name, which is like Joaquin Phoenix? Yes.
Yeah.
But I ultimately think that it's not going to be a movie for everybody. It definitely is that A24 effect where it's like you're going to reach a certain audience, but you're not going to reach everybody. I'm not going to discredit his film or his work, but I will say, kind of similar to some of the other movies we'll be talking about today, there is better works that the director has put out. but this is still a pretty damn like good movie overall. Will it win? Did I even have a thought it was going to win? No, but a
Yeah.
lot of people don't like absurdist. They like something with a plot, or like at least a more definitive plot, at least something more, where is this going? Where are we going with it? Though I could say for some movies that I've seen recently, that may not be the case, such as
Mhm.
like Poor Things and stuff that may be coming out now. But, you know, I do believe that people should still go and watch it regardless, but yeah, I do think it was a step back a little bit in his career, in like in the nicest way possible, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, certainly a big
Yeah.
swing.
Yeah.
Out of the park. It was a swing, and it's certainly something that,
Mm,
a movie that you've never seen before, and you probably will never see again. So it's definitely very
that's fair.
admirable for that. Um, Another Joaquin film I have here is Napoleon. I This was the big kind of Thanksgiving movie for me, where I went to go check it out.
Ah,
Ultimately, I did enjoy Napoleon, but it was another one where I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I just have a feeling that like this one is going to be too in the middle of the road for the Academy. I thought like it wasn't the war epic that a lot of people were kind of hoping for. Maybe that 4 hour cut from Ridley Scott is that, which is what we were kind of all hoping for. But ultimately,
mhm,
I think this one didn't really pick a. We always talk about on the show the narrative, right? It didn't. I don't think this one had
mhm.
a narrative. Like it really didn't feel like it took the. It focused on his relationship with his wife in the film, which was interesting and intriguing, and then it also focuses on like his very very decorated career as like a war general. But by the end of it, I was kind of like they didn't really stick to one. It was kind of just like this weird half and half thing where even at
Yeah,
the end of the movie, it's kind of like they have like that in all kind of biopics and all like true story kind of films. They have like the text at the end where it's like this is what happened at the end, and
yeah,
it's like Napoleon went on to win all these wars, and these are the body counts of each war, and then it's like and then him and his wife, and it's like what a random. There's no real correlation here. So it was a little weird for that, and I think that's ultimately why it might not go there because it's like they didn't really pick. I do think the costume design and like the visual effects are really good. So maybe in like the kind of below the line categories, it can get in there. Um, but I think as far as like the main like director, actor, picture, I don't think it's going there. Especially after like seeing it, I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It's a little too. And Ridley Scott has been making films that are I like ultimately, but I think like he's been less reliable lately, I think. It's like, when he puts something out, it's like, you
mm,
had a chance here. Like I really was excited for House of Gucci, and I thought that was oh I enjoyed it, but it's like, oh my God, like some of it is a little weird. But yeah, I don't know if you felt any sort of way about Napoleon, or if you like saw
yeah.
it, or if you have a thought of why it's not gonna make it to the Oscars or anything like that.
So I saw it because I'm a big Joaquin Phoenix fan. Like I
Yeah.
I appreciate his work.
Mhm.
Obviously, again, another miss in his year, which is very sad. Like I respect him as an actor, but you know, sometimes you sign for a project not knowing, of course, like you say, the outcome of how it's going to proceed once it's out. And you know, I will give him credit. He, as an actor, I think he did a phenomenal job. I think he
Agreed.
hit all the marks as a character he was supposed to do. And I think, honestly, I think the star of the show was his wife.
Yeah.
I think she was the star. She was the one I was more hyper focused on than him. But you're right. Like in a storytelling like that, I mean, look at all of these other biopic movies that they have coming out. Pick the narrative that you want to go with. I mean, look
Hmm.
at how many Elvis movies have come out. You
Hmm.
know, they picked and choose. Is it the love that he had with Priscilla, or is it just talking about his career in general and then like kind of grasping at that later on? And I think that's where the downfall of this movie came. But then again, Ridley Scott is in his like 80s. You
Yeah.
know, he's probably, you know, I don't want to say nearing the end of his career because him and like Martin Scorsese, they're still pushing things out.
Still going.
But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, but I think the older that they get, I think they're not, you know, I think they're not taking those risks that they used to take in their
Yeah.
younger films, which is why I am a big Ridley Scott fan. I think that there are some incredible movies of his. And I don't think that this is his best work by any means, especially because I know he's really big in like the historic, like epics type of, genre. But I still don't want to say that it was a failure of a film. I still think, for the work that they put into it, it was still very well made, a very good movie to still enjoy and watch, like you said, but nothing to the level of winning an award. Period pieces always can be nominated for costumes, like you said, and
Yeah.
whatnot, especially because of how elaborate. And I can appreciate that aspect. Again, overall, solid movie, but did they approach it correctly, or maybe just how they went about the storytelling? No.
Mhm.
But Joaquin did his part. So as an actor to actor, I'm gonna give him credit where credit is due. That I don't put the blame on him, and I just put the blame on kind of the overall direction of the movie. But it was still pretty damn good movie.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. One that I haven't seen yet, I was actually supposed to see this a few days ago, but I ultimately did not end up going, is Ferrari. Michael Mann,
Oh,
another kind of this is the one with Adam Driver. It's like a Enzo
oh.
Ferrari biopic. I didn't get a chance to see it. I was supposed to see it the other night, but this is another one where it's like it's coming out in a couple days here, and there's no buzz on this thing. Where it's like I think it's probably going to be a really good movie, but I think it's another one of these kind of Napoleon situations where it's like, yeah, like it was good, but in such a stacked year, it didn't make it. Um, so that one
So
I
it's
feel
not
like
out yet?
not out yet. So there was an early showing like 2 days ago. But as like these, the Golden Globes nominations are out, a lot of the kind of tracking is happening, and Ferrari's just getting lost in the mix, I think. So ultimately, like come Christmas Day, it will be out. But at this point in time, it looks like it's probably not gonna make it all the way. But I mean, we could be surprised. But I think by the end of the day, it probably will walk away with little to no
Hmm.
nominations. Maybe sound, because I think like some of the racing scenes are probably gonna be really cool. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I don't
haven't even
know.
heard of this movie, which is
It
a
looks
shame because
good.
I love Adam Driver. He's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah,
So
it
it's kind
looks
of a
good.
shame that they haven't promoted this
Yeah,
movie as well as some of these other films that they've been putting out. I'll definitely have to check it out though. But let's hope a turn for the best,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, agreed.
Hmm.
We'll see. But I think like a lot of people have been like, it's slow and and I'm like, oh man, well, I'm still gonna check it out for sure. But
It's a biopic again? Another biopic?
I believe so. Yeah, it looks like it's about Ferrari and like
Huh.
the rise of that and all that stuff. But
What is it with
something I know very
biopics
little
this
about.
year?
But yeah,
Yeah. Huh. That's a very common theme in the 2023
yeah,
films.
a lot
Okay,
of a lot
well,
of biopics and
guess
a
they're
lot of
running out of ideas.
I right, and then
Okay.
a lot of weird like this was like such a year of like weird product biopics too, where it's like BlackBerry and like flaming hot Cheetos. Like, what is going on? It's pretty funny. Next up, one that has been kind of getting some buzz, but ultimately, like, I think this should have been like a much bigger deal. Is Saltburn? I loved Saltburn. It's one of my favorites of the year, and I think it should be up there with everything else. But ultimately it's seeming like it's not going to get all the way. Emerald Fennell's last film, Promising Young Woman, did go all the way and did get a lot of Oscar noms. And it's upsetting that like her sophomore film here, Saltburn, is kind of walking away with little to no nominations, because like Rosamund Pike has been getting supporting actress in some places, so there is a chance that she sneaks in. So I'm not going to totally discount Saltburn, and I'm not going to like make it like this big kind of like failure, but it should be. I think it should be up there with all the rest of them, and there's a chance that it will be. So I'm not like totally down on this one yet, but I think it should be like talked about so much more highly, and it's unfortunate that it's got such mixed reviews because I really liked it.
I have not seen it.
No, it's so good.
I don't even know if I even really heard of it.
It's on
What's kind of
Prime
the
now.
basic premise? Oh,
So
okay, that's good.
yeah, it's on Prime. It's with Barry Keoghan, who's great,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
yeah, directed by Emerald Fennell from Promising Young Woman, and it's basically this kind of it's like this weird. I don't even want to say too much because it's like he's Barry Keoghan has kind of a interest in Jacob Elordi. He's in this as well from Euphoria, and he was also
Oh, okay.
Elvis in the Priscilla movie. Um,
Hmm.
and
Great
it's
actor.
yeah, he's great, and it's like this kind of thing where he's very much interested in Jacob Elordi, and so he kind of stays over his house for the summer, and things get crazy from there. And it's like just this weird, crazy kind of ride. And I really had a fun
Oh,
time with
I
it.
like that.
Um,
Huh.
yeah, but it's on
And you said it's
Prime.
on Prime?
It's on Prime now. Yeah,
Well, I
definitely gonna
enjoyed
give it a
Promising
rewatch.
Young Woman, so I already have a feeling I'm really going to enjoy this. So I hope it gets the buzz that it deserves,
Yeah,
especially with a renowned actor that they have on there who's kind of in his peak.
he's so
So
good in it
you'd be
too.
surprised. Yeah, you'd be surprised, especially with those type of actors.
Mhm.
There might be a running chance. I mean, they might not win, but they could maybe get a
Yeah,
nomination.
maybe. That's why
Yeah.
I'm not discrediting it because it's
Yeah.
been in places so far. Like Rosamund Pike, like I said, she was nominated for the Golden Globe. Um, Barry Keoghan's been getting nominated in some places. The cinematography is so good, so I think that should be in there too.
Awesome.
But I don't know. But I feel like it should be talked about so much highly, so much in such higher regard because it's great, and I really liked it.
I'm gonna
Um,
get back to you on that.
yeah, for sure. Because I hope you like it too because it's really good.
Yeah.
Next up, I have Jacob Elordi again here. Priscilla. I think ultimately this was one that I kind of knew going in, where it's like I think this one's going to be a little too like it's not going to be the big bombastic Baz Luhrmann Elvis that we got last year. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a
Hmm.
much more quiet kind of character study, and it was that, and I really enjoyed it. But I felt like the same. I've been saying this all the entire time this show's been going on. Priscilla was very much like kind of it reminded me of Spencer, where like Spencer's kind of this like quiet, kind of low key film, and like you kind of you light the fire, you watch the movie. That's how it felt, where it's like it's just kind of very low key, very kind of understated, but great when you come away from it. And this was one of those as well for me, where it's like A24. There's a lot of A24 films on here actually on this list that I have here. And I think because A24, while they do put out things that win Best Picture, they also aren't afraid to just kind of make these kind of riskier things. And Priscilla for me was kind of, the costume design was fantastic, but at the end of the day, I think it just was kind of more about the character and less about the let's go for the bait. Let's have a big scene of Priscilla kind of screaming and crying so like we could show her for the Oscar clip. And this was less concerned about that, and I really appreciated that because Sofia Coppola did a really great job like making this kind of more intimate piece, if that makes sense. So
Hmm.
I think because of that, it kind of struck its awards chances, but I do think at the end of the day, it's gonna be more remembered because of that, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm making any sense,
Oh
but
no, I completely agree. And that's why the love that I have for A24 is so
yeah,
strong, is because they're not afraid to take those risks, knowing that a lot of their movies will not make it to that category. But I think what's nice about that is they're making movies that people want to watch
yeah,
rather than making these movies that people are going to vote for awards. Because if you make these carbon copies that are going to be nominated with these big, climactic moments, you're missing out on those like intimate scenes, those intimate character moments that I think is why the industry is kind of flailing a little bit. Is because we're not focusing on developing these characters a lot more. And that's why I think Priscilla was so well put. Because like you said, last year we had this big, extravaganza
yeah.
with Austin Butler, which was phenomenal. Like I know a lot of people may disagree, but I think that he gave it his all. I think he
Mhm.
did incredible. And I think this was just another interpretation of that, same telling, but through the perspective of her and looking at it from these intimate moments between these characters. And they knew that they were not going these nominations. So for them, it's like, if we're not going to get it, we are going to tell a story. And I think as someone in the industry and as a watcher, I think I found that way more entertaining and way more emotionally available than a lot of these other movies that might actually end up winning awards. And again, being a period piece, you always have a chance to win costumes, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I personally enjoyed it.
Mhm.
And I personally think it's their loss that they don't want to nominate them if they don't. But overall, like these movies have solid pieces to them that at the end of the day will be memorable, like you said, in the work that they had already put in. So, and I love how I mentioned Priscilla earlier too,
Mhm.
because of how memorable it was truly listening to it. So again, maybe I'm a little biased on that sense and A24, but overall, I think A24 had a really big hit with that movie that came out this year.
Totally. Agreed. Yeah, it's their loss, like you said, and she was nominated for the Golden Globe, so that's good because the Golden Globe
Oh,
they're able
sure.
to they're able to kind of not nominate slash award more people because they do that musical comedy drama thing. So
Mhm.
Kaylee Spaney was able to get in for Best Actress Drama, so that was good. Um,
She said that.
she was great, yeah. Next up, I have Foe, which I haven't seen, but this is one that looked really good originally. It stars Paul Mescal and Saoirse Ronan. So this was one,
Oh,
yeah, like a couple months ago, I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh man. And it's directed by the guy, I can't remember the guy's name. I get him, Gareth Edwards, and somebody else mixed up. But the guy who did Lion with Dev Patel, he directed this. So
oh,
yeah, so this is like I don't even know really much about it. It's like they're a couple and they're like in some like dystopian world or something. And this movie was coming out in limited release like early October. So I'm like, oh, they're going for like the limited run. Then they're gonna go wide once it gets the buzz. And it came out like at the New York Film Festival, and then it came out in limited release that very week. And I was like keeping an eye on it. I'm like, I want to see this. And then nothing. Like it came out, it debuted with like a 10% or something on Rotten Tomatoes, and then just went away. And then I just saw it was like on available for rent the other day. So this one just failed. And it's such a bummer because I'm so curious to see like what all the hate is about because nobody's talking about it. And it looked like it could have been one of these like big kind of movies for the award season. And it's a bummer that it wasn't. I'm curious to see if it truly is that bad because wow, like with this talent, I can't imagine it has like nothing going for it, you know?
with our
So
director too.
yeah, exactly. So I was so surprised to see this like kind of just it really it really goes to show you how potentially damaging that Rotten Tomatoes number can be because it's like this one was just getting started and then it dropped with that 10% or whatever it was and then it just went away. It got cut off before it could even start. So this was like this might be the biggest kind of loss of the whole year because it's like nobody's talking about it anymore and it's such a big like you have Paul Mescal in All of Us Strangers, which is a big kind of awards push, and to see this one just fail so spectacularly really is a bummer because I was interested in this. Like I like Saoirse Ronan a lot and I like the director. I liked Lion a lot. It's a bummer and I'm still very curious to see it just to see what
Wow.
that is about. But yeah,
What a cast. What a
yeah,
director. But I'm going to say this and I'm going to leave it. I have a bone to pick with Rotten Tomatoes. So,
yep,
I'm not going to take their word for it.
no,
I'm going to start my own thing called the Ripe Apples. And I'll tell you the truth. But Rotten Tomatoes will ruin a movie, especially some of the times with their reviews are so blatantly wrong.
yeah.
So I need to now watch it. And it's not streaming anywhere, it's for rent only.
It's available for like purchase and rental. Yeah, that's it. So I've got
Wow.
to check it out because I'm so curious to see what that's
What
about.
failed so bad?
Yeah,
Or if it even failed, maybe the promote. I mean, the thing is, there could be 100 different reasons why it may have been shelved or,
yeah,
pretty much shelved at this point. But I think that's going to be one of the top movies that I start watching soon because
yeah,
that's a 2023 kind of bombshell failure,
yeah.
pretty much.
It's crazy
Wow.
how like it
Wow.
even more so because like I don't think like I really saw it and nobody's even talking about it. So it's a bummer. And that was one where I saw the trailers like in the theater and I'm like, oh man, like this is looking good. And then just I don't know I don't it's crazy to me. But yeah, they just kind of
Right.
cut the legs out from under it and it's a shame really. But
But hey, until we watch it, we'll have to reconvene on that one. I'm actually
absolutely.
curious.
Yeah,
Mhm.
me too. And I'm definitely curious to see. I'll have to rent that over the week, over the holiday, because
Mhm. Me too.
I'm so curious. Next up, I have one that I really liked as well, Dream Scenario with Nick Cage. This was another A24 film. This one was really fun. I liked it a lot, but I don't know what it is. I think this one had the chance to kind of go big and mainstream, and then it ultimately just didn't. Like another one where I think they kind of cut the theatrical run early, like where it's like it was just starting to come out in a lot of theaters, and I was able to catch it in one that's like 20 minutes from my house, but it never really expanded and went like super wide either. And I think this could have been one like kind of like an Uncut Gems, where like you have that recognizable face, and then it ultimately kind of makes some money because it's got that name in it. And that premise, like, this was such an interesting idea. And I think maybe it was a little too weird from the start to really get in there, but I really appreciated the kind of swings it took, and I really liked it. So to see like Nicolas Cage just kind of show up in people's dreams was so fun. Um, does get a little kind of bummer at the end, like it's a little tragic, but I really liked it, and I think it's a shame that, because I think this is one of those that, like, I could see him in the best actor race, and I really wish I was. But he was so good in it, and he is nominated for, I believe it's for the Golden Globes, because like I said, they're able to do comedy and drama. So I think this was in the comedy category. So Nicolas Cage did get a Golden Globe nomination, so that's great. So hopefully he wins that. But I don't know. I really had fun with it, and I think it should be in more of those kind of conversations.
Well, why do you think that it wasn't going to make a nomination?
I don't know really. I think it was like, I think it's one of those where it's like it gets that kind of, like you were mentioning earlier, like the horror genre where it ultimately gets shut out sometimes. This isn't a horror movie, but it's like it's hard to pinpoint what exactly. It's like a comedy drama, sometimes moments of like supernatural. It's a weird one. So I think because we're not able to put it in a box, like kind of like Beau is Afraid, honestly,
Yes.
it's harder to kind of explain it. If this was just like a kind of crazy comedy, I think it would be in more of those conversations, kind of. But I think, like, at the end of the day, it was just a little too strange to begin with. So I think that's probably why, because the Academy, for whatever reason, they will really award A24 films, but sometimes those weird ones are like, you know what, but not this one, though. So I
Which is
think,
wild to me.
I
Like,
know.
I don't understand. Why don't they evolve into these new forms of categories to
Yeah.
also get nominations for? Which it still surprises me to this day that it's still so black and white,
Yeah.
and that we haven't evolved, especially with like the growing movies that are finally better than these typical cookie cutter,
Yeah.
put in one genre, movies. And I think A24 is finally again, the love I have for A24, geez, my knees. But I think that that's something, as a nomination, they need to expand on it,
Yeah.
so that these movies that we've talked about have a box that they can be put in and be nominated for. So it's a
Absolutely.
shame.
They
And
should
it's Nicolas
expand.
Cage. Have his comeback. Let him have
I
his
know.
comeback.
He's having the best comeback, and he's fantastic. Next up, I have Next Goal Wins from Taika Waititi. This was one in the beginning of the show. I was kind of like, yeah, nobody's really talking about this one yet. But I saw it. I actually did enjoy it a lot. It's a fun kind of crowd pleaser. That's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's got nothing to do with like the Taika drama from Thor. I don't think. It's like he makes good movies. I really do enjoy whenever he puts something out. I have a good time with it. I really love Jojo Rabbit. That was kind of his big. I think Jojo Rabbit kind of set the standard where it's like, oh, this is what we expect from Taika every time. And the fact that he didn't deliver that this time around is kind of making people overreact about the movie. I think it's totally fine that this is just a fun kind of crowd pleaser. It's got that kind of Ted Lasso energy where it's like, this guy's kind of coaching this failed soccer team. Michael Fassbender's great in it. I really did enjoy all of the performances, really. And it's got that fun kind of Taika charm where it's like it's silly, it's kind of lighthearted, doesn't take itself too seriously, and by the end you just feel good. So I think that's ultimately not enough for some of these people. I don't know. I had fun with it, and it's a bummer that nobody really saw it, but I had fun.
I like that. I haven't seen it, but sometimes you just need those feel good movies. But you're right. If it doesn't hit a mark that they want, it
doesn't make it.
It's still a great movie, but it's just not gonna get that nomination. But honestly, it's still a win for him.
Oh, totally. It's not like anything you haven't seen before, but it's still fun. Like I don't know. Like I don't know what people expect. Next up, I have another Fassbender film, The Killer. I think this one it's kind of got that issue of, I don't think it was treated with the care that it should have been, where I think it was just kind of dropped on Netflix. Like, this is a David Fincher movie. You know what I mean? Like, this is a big deal. And I was lucky enough to go and drive to a theater to see it, and it was great. I thought it was excellent, and it's one of my favorites of the year for sure. I think it's another one of those, like, it's kind of quiet and it takes its time to get going. So it might be that it's a number of reasons. I think this is just one of those that Netflix doesn't want to put the money into campaign for, especially when they have like Maestro and Rustin, and May December. They have all these kind of big awards films. This one is one of the ones that they're not going to put the resources in to kind of get the eyeballs on it that they should. But I think this, I mean, it looks great. It's got great cinematography. I thought the sound was fantastic. So I think this could sneak in for some of those like technical categories, but it really should be another one that they talk about even more because it's great.
Yeah. Again, probably due to bad marketing, I haven't seen it, but if it's on Netflix, it's just a click away. I definitely want to check it out. Especially a David Fincher movie. I have never had a bad experience, so I'm actually really curious. And it's sad that some movies fail due to that marketing reasoning alone, which I know there's a lot of movies out there that's kind of what their demise was.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, especially because, like you said, the May, December, and all of these other movies and shows that have been coming out, which have been just as incredible, with big name actors. But if the failure itself was from the marketing, then the movie did its job, and so kudos to them. But I have to check that one out too.
Yeah, it's really good. Next up, I have The Creator with John David Washington and Gareth Edwards directing. This was one that I saw the trailer and I'm like, yeah, like this looks like District 9, and I think District 9 did kind of get those noms. So I kind of was expecting a similar thing here. It's got really great visual effects, so maybe it'll get in for that. But ultimately, I don't think it's gonna go all the way, and I don't really expect that it ever was, but it was really good, and I liked it a lot. But this was one where I was like, I can see why, but I really liked it. I like that it took some big swings. But yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those, like, it should be kind of talked about in higher regard, and it was another like kind of big flop this year, so that was a bummer. But I don't know if you had a chance to see The Creator, but it was a bummer that it just kind of went away. But yeah.
No, but you know what? I'm telling you, all these movies that you've listed that I haven't seen, already on the list to watch as soon as possible.
Awesome. Next up, I have Dumb Money. This was one that I thought like looked, like it could have been a big contender as well. I was expecting it. I thought this would be the kickoff to the Kickstarter season. It came out in September. It did come out a little early, but you got Craig Gillespie from I, Tonya. Great director. You've got Paul Dano. You've got an all-star cast, and it's kind of a topical story. I think it was good. I liked it, but I think it kind of leaned into more of that like mainstream thing, and it wasn't really like I thought it was. The book that this is based off of is called The Anti-Social Network, and I think that applies perfectly to the movie too, because it's like The Social Network is this big kind of prestigious, like great movie that's remembered for decades, and I think Dumb Money is kind of the opposite, but not like in a bad way. You know what I mean? Like it's more of a kind of it's more fun. It doesn't take itself as seriously, but it could have, and I think it could have, and it could have gotten all the way there. But I appreciate the route that they ended up going because it was fun and I liked it. But it was a bummer to see kind of like the talks just fall so fast because it's like, oh, like, yeah, I kind of was hoping this would be more of a contender, but it's not at the end of the day.
I think when you hit those mainstream movies that know that that's the approach they want to go and then don't kind of fully get there, I think that's kind of where, the failure comes in. But if they were to not take themselves too seriously and then like really push on that, I think maybe they would have had a shot. But it's just one of those movies that I wouldn't say would be memorable. It's just something you watch and you're like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And then you kind of move on with your day.
Exactly.
Also, it wasn't necessarily like the genre that I kind of really go for. It was just a movie that people were talking about, like, let's go watch it. But it's not a movie. It's kind of like those one and dones. Like, I watched it. It was good. Okay. Next.
Right. Let's move on. Yeah, exactly. It was
definitely
like I've seen better work from everybody involved.
Yeah.
But not,
And I think
this
they
is not
relied
bad.
on the star-studded cast. I think that's what they were relying on,
That's
was
a
the
good point.
cast. And with that, I think it could go one of two ways. It could flop because that's the only thing you were relying on. It has nothing to do with the actors.
Right.
Or it could be really successful, which is why that mainstream approach to it is literally a 50-50. And to me, it's always, oof, which way is this movie going to go? And I think that movie, again, I do not put anything on the actors, but it just maybe didn't get the reaction that it probably thought it was going to get.
Right. You were kind of expecting with that slot there and the kind of festival run, it's like, oh, and then, and it doesn't meet those marks. You're kind of like, like you tried and it's, a valiant effort, but ultimately, no.
Yeah.
Two here that I haven't seen, but they're both indie releases. One from earlier this year, the other one that just recently came out. Eileen and 1001. 1001, I've been hearing fantastic things about the lead performance. I believe this is streaming on Peacock right now. And then Eileen is in theaters with Anne Hathaway is in it. So two movies that I really haven't seen advertised enough, but when compiling this list, I kept seeing them. So I'm like, these two look like good films. So I would love to check both of them out. Eileen sounds like an interesting kind of suspenseful thriller, and I like that. And Anne Hathaway, I think she's playing against type in that one, where she's kind of more of a creepy, like, kind of person in it, and I'm excited to see that. And then 1001, I don't know much about, but I've heard it's great. So those two are some that I think should be in the conversations as well. The 1001 especially, because like that one premiered at festivals last year. It's been on everybody's kind of radar when it comes to that lead performance. So from what I heard, the lead performance is that she stands kind of neck and neck with everybody in the best actress category right now. So
wow. Well,
perhaps,
why you got it to the list if you think it wasn't?
I just think because they're not being talked about enough. I think like a lot of the awards kind of race is based on like longevity of like conversation, and I think, which is so interesting because it's like it's about like, sometimes it's unfortunately about the money you put into the campaigns, right? Like The Killer like is one of these films that like is good enough to go there, but they're not paying enough for like a campaign or anything like that, or to market it or to do anything with it really. So I think these two are similar, and these two also just might not have the budgets to do so. They are independent films, like they're small movies. So I think that is also a reason to kind of maybe think that they weren't gonna make it. We saw this last year with I can't remember the actress's name, but that one actress that like just kind of popped up out of nowhere in the Oscar race. Who Andrea Riseborough, I think she just like got nominated for this super To Leslie, I think it was called. It was like insane that it happened. It was like this crazy thing that happened last year where Andrea Riseborough was in this film called To Leslie. Nobody saw it. Made like $20,000 or something tiny like that. It came out in like 3 theaters, and because of her promotion for it and her campaigning and like sending it to her friends and all this stuff, she got an Oscar nomination. Like I've never seen anything like it. And that was kind of incredible. So maybe we're in for another shocker like that again, because I mean, if the lady in 1001 is that good, I see no reason to not award her for that. But I haven't seen either of them, but I just think they're worth mentioning, especially because like, I just think this list is just stuff that you should check out, because it's like they're all great films, and I think with the exception of Foe, because I really don't know if that one's good or not, but I just wanted to mention it because that one was such a car crash. I can't believe that happened. So that I'm more interested about to know why it's that bad. But yeah, these other ones are just all like great films that just like aren't kind of reaching it there, especially with the kind of talk currently with like the predictions and things like that. These are not popping up anywhere. So yeah, I just wanted to mention them.
We'll have another surprise this year.
Next up, I have Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. This was a really good one that came out earlier this year. I really enjoyed it. Based on the book, the beloved classic. Um, I enjoyed it a lot. I think it was another one of these ones that just came out too early. You know, it's just like that you never get. Sometimes you have those everything everywhere all at once where like it comes out in like March and then it just doesn't matter. Like it's just that good. This one I think ultimately was another one of those like it's a great kind of feel good film and it's fantastic and really well done and well directed and everything and great performances and all that stuff, but doesn't have that kind of staying power that some of these stronger contenders do. But it's really great and you should definitely check it out. Did you get a chance to see this one?
No, I have not.
Very
So
good.
it's again on the list.
Yeah, also it's a great one. Next up, I have another. It's this is one of those ones where, again, it could be like production design and things like that. But Asteroid City from Wes Anderson,
Mhm.
this was a good one too. I really liked it. It was charming and it was came out in the summer. Had a really great time with it. But ultimately, yeah, it's just one of those like I don't. And the reaction to this one was kind of mixed. I was surprised. Like I was like, it's good. Like it's I had fun with it, but like people online were just kind of like, yeah, like you know, it's just kind of the same shtick that he always does. Like it's getting tired, you know, all that stuff. So people were kind of bashing on it for that. I had a good time with it. I didn't really feel any way or the other about it, but I liked it. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, I actually did enjoy it too.
yeah.
I actually didn't think it was. I thought it was going to be one of those movies where it was kind of widely accepted and enjoyed by most. Obviously, maybe not nominated, but I
Mhm.
definitely thought that it would get an overall good reaction from the audience.
Yeah.
But that wasn't even one of those movies that I felt would be as divided as you're saying that it
Yeah,
is.
I it's just like
I think it came
some
out at the right
corners.
time too.
I
I think
agree.
coming out in summer was perfect. So I'm really surprised that it took the hit that it kind. I think that the movie overall is still well put, but I
Yeah.
think with the mixed reactions is probably why it's not going to be nominated.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a very solid and enjoyable movie overall. Like I still highly recommend the movie to people if they want to go and watch something.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
I think over time it's gotten that kind of more because you always have that sometimes where you'll have like the what is like a what's a good example of that? Kind of like Parasite did not have this because everybody loved that, but
Oh,
like
that movie is incredible.
so good. But like you'll get that Oscar movie that like it's great and everybody loves it. And then once it starts getting the nominations and starts getting the awards,
Yeah.
people kind of come back on it and they're like, you know what, this wasn't that good. And then they start to kind of bash on it. I think it's similar to that, where it's like Asteroid City, you know, people really liked it when it came out, had fun with it. And then like over the last few months, you've had like kind of, you know, not the target audience, like the non kind of Wes Anderson and Wes, they've come out and been like, "What? Like this is stupid." Like that. I think you've had those people kind of come into it. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the hit that I've been referring to, and it's like the worst timing because it's now the Oscar season. So like I think it's just a combination of things, but still really great. Highly recommend it.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that it took such a turn like that. I wasn't. Oh my god! Look at me. I'm so upset that the movie,
Yeah.
took such a turn that my phone is losing its mind. Um, it's a shame though. I guess I didn't really look at it because, which is surprising to me that the opinion shifted just a couple months ago based on the movie. You're right. It might be because of nominations, people are getting more nitpicky.
Maybe.
But I feel like your initial reaction to a movie is kind of the reaction that you should base it off of, which is so. I think, look, I think Wes Anderson did his part. He
Mhm.
put it out at the right time. It was a solid movie. I get it. Like some of his movies do kind of show that same, you know, what's the word? That same kind of energy or that same kind of like, not plot line, but kind of how he goes about his filmmaking,
Yeah.
but that's because that's how he is. Like, if you
Right.
don't like that, then you don't really like Wes Anderson necessarily.
Yeah.
So I think people are just using that judgment, and they're not really like looking at the overall like premise and everything. And also, I think they're taking it way more seriously than it really needed
I
to be.
I know. I agree.
I
It's
don't
so
understand.
unnecessary. You know, it had great performances. It had a really fun kind of structure to it. And at the end of the day, it's a fun movie. And I liked the French Dispatch a little more, but this one was still great. I love like the little stop motion alien. It was so fun. Um Next up, I have two that are kind of in the same category, I feel. Joyride and Bottoms. These are two like really well done comedies, like really well done comedies. Um, and they're both great. And they both kind of, when they both came out, like the initial buzz was like, oh my God, like this is the next Lady Bird. This is the next, you know, Crazy Rich Asians. I don't remember if Crazy Rich Asians actually did go and get nominated, but I think it had that kind of momentum where it could have.
I think it did.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So these both kind of had those reactions where it's like it's a fun studio comedy. They don't make them like this anymore, and like, you know, they've kind of fizzled out a little bit. Where it's like Joyride, I don't see anybody talking about it anymore, but it was a fun time. And like Bottoms, like has kind of stuck around a little more because it is really good. I don't know what happened to Joyride. It's a bummer too because those are two like really well constructed comedies, and I think they're both really funny, and like a lot of these comedies like haven't been funny lately, so I thought these two were actually kind of head and shoulders above a lot of the other comedies, and they were really refreshing to see. And even just in a year of like kind of tough like financial losses and like kind of subpar summer blockbusters, these were really refreshing to see in the theater this summer because they're just good times, and it's like it almost doesn't even need to be nominated, but it'd be nice if they were, because like they do kind of in some ways they deserve it. You know, I think they're just well done. They're really well done films. And
Which did you like more? Did you like Bottoms or Joyride better?
So it's been a while since I've seen Joyride, but Bottoms, like a lot of those jokes are sticking with me. So I think maybe Bottoms, because like it was so well done. And I really liked the director of the film. I can't remember her name, but she did Shiva Baby with Rachel Sennett as well, and that one was really good too. It's like 77 minutes, like it's not that long, but that one was so fun, and it was actually really funny. And then this one was just, you know, insane. I was so surprised by how like out there they went with some of the stuff. Like by the end, like no spoilers, but it's just like ridiculous, and it's so funny. How about you? Did you see both of them, and which one did you like more?
I saw Bottoms. I didn't see Joyride. I actually never heard of Joyride.
Oh,
and
no?
Again,
It's really good.
being a cinephile, you would think I'd hear all these, but some movies go so under the radar that you just don't hear from them. But Bottoms, I think everybody really hyped up that movie. I love comedy like that. Again, I'm trying to choose my words carefully because again, I don't want to spoil anything.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy people going into a movie either blinded or not, you know, being ruined by something.
Yeah.
And I would highly recommend it to people that I know like enjoy true comedy and enjoy that kind of approach to comedy, if you know what I mean. Because I definitely do. But obviously, you know, it's not for everybody. And if it's as good as Joyride is, I would love to see that movie. Is it streaming anywhere, or is that one still in theaters?
Joyride, no, that came out like right around the time No Hard Feelings came out, and then that was like the bigger studio comedy. So Joyride kind of went under the radar.
That was a good movie.
No Hard Feelings, I really like too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joyride, it's really good. And I don't think it's streaming anywhere. It might be on Netflix, but I'm not totally sure. I know Netflix has that deal with Sony, and Joyride, I believe, is a Sony movie. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, no, it wouldn't be a Sony movie because No Hard Feelings is, and I don't think they would release those two so close together. Maybe it's Lionsgate. I don't know, but it's somewhere. I'm sure it's available somewhere. But that was a really good one. You know, crazy. It has Stephanie Shu in it from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, okay.
And she was really good in it. She was
they
fun.
might get nominated just because of some of the name actors that are in it. So especially Bottoms. I feel like Bottoms has a chance. I don't know. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but
maybe.
I thought it was really funny. So
I loved Ayo Edebiri. She's like having such a year, and I feel like a lot of the time with these like awards, like they'll, even if like I can't remember, there was one year where like an actor put out like 4 movies, and like they were like, we gotta nominate this person for one movie, even though like they were better in something else. They'll sometimes award like the year that they've had. So I'm like, maybe Ayo Edebiri can like get in for something that like maybe otherwise wouldn't, just because like they want to recognize her for the work that she put in this year. because she was great in like everything I saw her in this year. So I hope so, because I really liked her. I really liked the movie. And in a couple of weeks, I guess I'll say it here. I think we're gonna try to do an episode where like we nominate, like we'll like vote on like what we would nominate as for like in the awards and stuff like that. So that would be a fun episode. And I think like a lot of these kind of comedies and a lot of these films on this list might get in there for a lot of these things, because I think that's so fun. To wrap it up, I have two movies that both have not yet come out, but ultimately they're both kind of, so far at least with the conversation, are going mostly unnoticed. But again, it could be one of these situations where they are just not out yet and not a lot of people have seen them, but like for like the Golden Globes and things like that, they've been screened for them. So it's a bummer to not see them there. But I have The Iron Claw and The Boys in the Boat. The Iron Claw is this Zac Efron like wrestling A24 film. It looks excellent. It looks really good, and I cannot wait to see it. But just to kind of see it not really on everybody's list for like predictions and stuff like that, I'm surprised, because it looks really good. And I think like if it gets that kind of love from the audience like this weekend, because I think it releases today, if it gets that kind of love, it really could have like kind of a second life and make it back into the race here. The Boys in the Boat, however, I don't think so, because it's got that kind of, it's directed by George Clooney. And it's like, yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of a weird one. I never even heard of it until I saw like I went to the theater the other day, a big standee for this film, and I'm like, what is that? And it comes out on Christmas Day, and it's like this, I believe it's about like this boys rowing team. And like Joel Edgerton is like the coach or something like that. So it looks like a good, like, it looks kind of like Next Goal Wins, where it's like you've seen it before, you know, it's nothing new, but it's enjoyable. It looks like it's going to be kind of like that. But like the package that it's presented in with Joel Edgerton, directed by George Clooney, it's got this kind of true story underdog thing going on. It looks like it could be like one of these kind of sleeper things where like an audience really comes out and loves it, like for Christmas. And then maybe that takes it to the race, but I think right now it's not looking great, but you know, you never know. This is another one that I don't think has been screening a lot, but the people that have seen it really seem to enjoy it. So maybe, but I don't know.
The Iron Claw, I just saw the promo for it maybe a couple days ago, and that one looks really, really good. And I'm glad that Zac Efron's coming back doing his thing. He hasn't been gone that long, but I'm glad that he's like coming back with some really stronger pieces for himself, which I'm really happy about. And George Clooney directing something. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good for him. I think you're right. Coming out during the holidays, it's like a feel-good movie. It's one of those underdog stories, so that's the perfect time to put it out. But with those stories, majority of the time, they're not going to reach that level. And I think they know that. I don't think they're putting it past themselves. And if they are, then that's something they should reconsider for themselves. Right. But I think they know where they want to go with this movie, and as long as that's the case, it's going to succeed in its own way. But if you're looking at it from like the overall nominations, I think they know that that's not where it's going. And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Because, you know, again, what we were saying earlier, you know, nomination movies, they have this precise premise that they're going for because they know they want to get there. And, you know, if all movies try to do that, we would not see a difference in cinema moving forward. So I'm really happy that, you know, some of these movies obviously did not get the attention that they want, which is upsetting. But it's also like we still, as a society, need these movies.
Totally.
You know, still need that diversity and those feel goods and those comedies and those very semi-absurdist horror-esque, just really picture brain types of movies. And you know, I have my own respect for those in their own way. So kudos to everybody this year for all of their movies that they put out, that even if they don't get nominated, good for them. They're doing their thing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Totally agree with you. That's my list for the In Memoriam here. I mean, you know, these are all great films, and a lot of these the ones that we haven't seen check them out. They're all streaming or they're all available somewhere. They're in theaters now. Definitely check them out. This has been so much fun highlighting all of these smaller films. But Naima, I'm so glad to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can the people find you? Do you have anything that you would like to plug? Welcome to Galaxy of Film. It's been fun.
This has been incredible. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time, especially delving into these with the season coming up. Where you can find me, I'm everywhere all at once. In a general sense, you can follow my Instagram at _NAIMA SAIDDD. You could follow my other podcast, which I am behind on, but I promised you over the holiday break I'm going to be kind of getting back into it. I've just been so busy with my acting career. It's been, tough, but I do a horror movie podcast called Here's Mimi Horror Movie Podcast, where I just talk about the good, the bad, and the forgotten of the horror genre. And obviously my IMDb, if you're looking for an actor to cast, definitely hit up my direction. And it's been a pleasure working with Galaxy of Films as well. It's been a pleasure meeting you. And I can't wait to see you at our upcoming film screening. I'm very excited.
Yeah, we will all be meeting up on January 4th at the theater. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to meet you there as well. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you guys for tuning in. You can find the Galaxy of Film main podcast on the same feed that you're listening to Awards Bait. And really appreciate you guys for sticking around. Follow the Instagram at Galaxy of Film. Follow the Twitter or X, whatever, at Galaxy of Film. Join our Facebook group. We have a fan group on there, which is, I believe, ran by Shamim. And you guys can find all of us on there. And we hope to hear from you soon. So thank you so much, and have a good day. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.